what's good, everybody? This is Jay. You're on the Real Talk podcast with my great and good friend, Aaron Christensen. I'm so glad that I have you here on the show, and I'm very, very thankful that you found the time to get on this podcast and share some of your experiences and some golden nuggets as well. But yeah, man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm happy to be here. It's good. It's always good to talk to you too, because there's a lot of similar mindsets of you and I. So
Yes, sir, definitely, man. But I mean, you've accomplished a lot of great things already. And as for me, I'm just in the beginning stages. But, that's one of the great things about having you as a friend and as a network. I can learn from you directly as well. But, um, the purpose of my channel is to inspire others, entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners to think bigger and maybe get motivated and get some value from all of the guests that I have here on board. And then personally, like not to toot your own horn or not to toot your horn, Aaron, but I think so far, as since I've started, I've recorded a few episodes already, but I think you're the most successful so far, and I'd love to highlight your experiences, how you got there, the good, the bad, the ugly, and where you're at today, and what you're doing moving forward. But I'll start with my question with how you got started into entrepreneurship.
yeah, so really, my first test of entrepreneurship came when I was a kid, and I don't talk about this story a lot, but what did we used to do? Me and my friend, we would go down to the golf course. We lived in this little town in California. We'd go down to the golf course. We'd dig through the berry bushes and the creeks and stuff like that, and we'd go just pick up as many golf balls as we possibly could. So we're getting a product for free. The only thing that
Wow.
it took was a little sweat equity, but and then we would take it to the front of where all the golfers walked in to go golfing, and we would put the ball, wash them up the night before, then we'd put them up for sale for, I think
Wow.
this is in the 90s. We were trying to sell them for like $1 a piece, which is crazy. I think you could buy golf balls still cheaper than that. But
Yeah.
one of the very first lessons I got in entrepreneurship was it's all like supply and demand, right? So obviously we had the supply, but we was the demand. So we had the golf balls for sale. We kind of marked them. The ones that looked really good, we were trying to sell them for $1. So this guy walks up and he goes, I'm gonna tell you one. I'm gonna give you a piece of advice. And I think we were probably in fourth or fifth grade. He goes, I'm gonna give you one piece of advice. He goes, these golf balls, I could buy the same golf ball inside the clubhouse or the pro shop for cheaper than what you guys are selling them for out here. I'm gonna buy one though, but you should lower your price. And so we lowered our price. We started selling a hell of a lot more golf balls. So
Wow.
that was really my first kind
And
of, without even knowing it, at the age. But
this was around fourth or fifth grade. You already thinking like that?
yeah, yeah. So it
Makes
was
sense.
just, we wanted money to go to the gas station and buy candy bars and sodas and stuff like that. Um, fast forward a number of years, went through high school and all that stuff, joined the military. And then the military was great because it gave me a lot of, big picture, working with a lot of, highly educated people. And so when I got out of the military, that's when I came back to Nevada and I started working for my mom and dad in the automotive repair space. So they had their own company and got in and started applying a lot of the stuff excuse me, a lot of the stuff we learned in the military, the leadership and stuff like that,
Right.
of applying that towards the business, and it gave the business a new perspective that it didn't necessarily have before, because my dad was a very good technician. So he was
Yeah.
good at selling stuff, selling automotive service, and then he was good at fixing it. But he had a hard time going back and forth between the two. And then
Gotcha.
a year later, my brother joined, and then him and I just took it. We had two locations at that point. We just kind of took over, and
Wow.
we just started going to town with it, really, and just kind of trying different things and putting people into leadership roles. And because he was in the Army, so he had a lot of the same kind of leadership background that I did from the Air Force. So
Gotcha.
it was it was it was cool to watch the transformation happen so quickly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, could you share like when you took over your father's business? It was a family business. you
Mhm.
were in the military, your brother as well, which I think it helps a lot. Like if you were prior service or in the military, you learn the things that you learned while you were in. Personally, with my background as well, same as you, right? I was in the Navy.
Yeah.
I applied everything that I learned from my military service into entrepreneurship, not necessarily the technical knowledge of things, but just some of the discipline, right? Um, and I think that also plays a big factor in your success. But I will say there's a lot of different things also that helped you out, which I'm seeing now that I'd like to kind of highlight. So when you first took over your business, Christensen Automotive, right? Is the name.
Yep. Yep.
Um, what were you guys doing as far as revenue at the time?
Oh, when I first got involved, I mean, we were only doing like just over a million a year or something like that. It was like
Wow,
1.3, 1.4. And then we opened up the second location. And that one started from scratch. So there was zero customer base. So we talk a lot about buying existing businesses versus starting a business. It
right.
is a lot harder to start a business from scratch
Been
than it
buying
is
one,
to buy an existing business with a customer base because you already have built in,
right,
in theory, you have built in revenue coming in.
right.
So there was a lot of lessons learned with that one. But as that next year, we were like 1.8 with the revenues from the second one, and then building on the first one, and then that's when that next year is when we put together the deal to my brother and I put together the deal to buy my parents out of the
Wow,
business.
wow. And that's when you took full ownership at that time.
Yep, yep,
Got
yep.
you. And I mean, I know you and I had talked offline, but you somehow found Cardo Adventures. Um, so you're already doing between the two businesses that you have, which is both, you know, uh, Christensen Automotive, right? Between two
Hmm.
places, the combination, what you were making under 3 million. Is
Oh
it
yeah,
safe to say
yeah,
that, right? So,
yeah.
um, and this was what year? Second year that when you took over, or it's about the same?
This was like going into year three.
Got
So that was year three is where things kind of started accelerating for us. So we had acquired another location. So we went to three locations and then we
got
acquired another one like 9 or 11 months later. And
got
so everything happened really, really fast. So you talk about, there's different breakpoints in a business,
right.
and we were kind of just accelerating through those without even, really realizing what we were doing.
Wow.
We were just kind of winging it, like, the old military adage of, get in line, let's go take the hill and whatever, but there's no plan behind that.
Right. Right.
And
Wow.
so I just had this big vision of like, we could take this and we can duplicate it. We do it better than everybody else. And we can just continue to duplicate what we're doing. But the problem that we had was, or that I had was, I wasn't documenting anything. So I
Yeah.
was like, all my duplication was right here, but it was nobody else was, they were just kind of going off of what I was saying. And,
Right.
and it worked really well with my brother and I, because he was kind of more the back end, the finances and stuff like that. And I was the front end, the face, it was, which, I love being out in front and talking to people and
Right.
stuff like that. So it worked out really well. And so when we got involved with Cardone Ventures, that's when things really started becoming systematized. The documentation process started happening. And that's when, I mean, our revenue started just exploding from there on out.
Wow. I mean, I'm experiencing that now. As somebody who's new to the ecosystem with Card Adventures, I attended my first business boot camp in, I believe it was November of last year, so fairly new.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I didn't really know too much about what Card Adventures was doing. I just saw an ad. That's when I came about finding about Grant Cardone. Um, and then when I saw how everything was structured, the way they do business, um, that's when I knew that it would definitely help my business out. But what made you really take that leap, like to move forward and take a risk with Card Adventures? Because I mean, um, you know, there's a lot of different programs, events, workshops that they have, but you went all in. Could you explain that, like what you ended up doing?
So it was our first experience was similar to yours, a boot camp. So and this is a Grant Cardone product, right? So Grant
Right,
Cardone gets in, he walks in the room, and the way I describe it to everybody is like when Grant walks into the room, like his energy is so big, it just like the lights like get brighter. It's like
yeah,
somebody puts more power to the system,
right,
and so you just get really energized, and it's just like his the way he thinks and the how he thinks and how big he thinks, it's crazy. So it's really special to be around him to experience that. And then Brandon got up, and this is right when Cardone Ventures first started.
right.
And so Brandon got up and started talking, and it was like first or second time he had ever done his keynote speech for Cardone Ventures.
Yeah,
And so he started talking, and I was just like a laser beam, like attracted. I'm like, what this guy is saying is like, I just whatever he's doing, I need to follow him.
wow,
And
yeah,
so it's just kind of like that instantaneous mentorship, the instantaneous um, draw towards what he was talking about, and really just looking at it going, whatever he's done, I want to do, and I want to figure out how to get there as quickly as possible.
and
And that's really what I found the Cardone Venture System is it's a pipeline that just you as soon as you get in it, you just start accelerating. Your business speed accelerates, your decision making accelerates, your education and business accelerates, and so everything happens so quickly. And it was a really crazy experience of how quickly everything happened for us.
yeah. Could you? I mean, could you? You guys were already being. You guys were already successful, to begin with, and you were acquiring. You're setting up new businesses, new locations. At this time, it seemed like Cardin Ventures didn't really have a lot of data like that you can go back into before you're making that decision, right? I did.
Yeah,
I'm in
yeah,
year 4 now. I mean,
uh-huh.
with Cardin Ventures already at year 4, I've have a lot more historical data to look into before making a decision. But it seemed like you didn't, because when you started was what, 2019, 2020,
2019, yeah. So
2019?
it
Yeah,
was yeah, there wasn't a lot of customers
right,
in 2019. There was a few, but there was a few before us. But it, it is one of those, it's the early adaptation cycle and a product, right? It's you just believe in whatever it is. It's like Apple, everybody when the iPhone 15 comes out, there's the people that are going to go buy it instantaneously.
right,
They're already on the waiting list probably, and then there's the people that will wait for a year to upgrade their phone and they don't really care. It's just the next thing.
right,
So I just had such a belief in what Brandon was talking about when he was up on stage, and I just felt like that he was just so genuine and how he was delivering and what he was saying, and it really takes a lot of the bullshit out of it. And
yeah,
so a lot of that's the scary part of business is when you start listening to people is there's a lot of bullshit out there,
yeah,
and so when you start listening to that, it could send you down a wrong track, especially for people who have never done anything before.
right,
So like Grant Cardone has done a lot and he still has a lot to do. Brandon has done a lot and he
right,
still has a lot to do. And, you talk about, being in a lot of the rooms with Grant and Brandon, just listening to them talk back and forth is the last time I heard it was the last boot camp. It was, Grant said, he goes, yeah, Brandon's one of my mentors. And I'm like, how the role reversal it happens there. So, and that's what for me I was like whatever these guys are doing I want to get in line and draft behind them and get to the next level of success that much quicker.
right. And you mentioned how scary and quick it was that you saw the turnaround. Can you kind of walk us through that experience specifically?
Yeah, so it was being able to start identifying the problems that I didn't even know we had.
Right,
um, Putting it's like somebody hands you a dictionary and says, or they tell you a new word that you've never heard before. They say define it, and you're like, I don't know what that is. And then they give you a dictionary, and then they say define it. And then you go, oh, okay. You flip to the page, and then boom, you can define the word. And so that's where the education piece comes in, because what Cardone Ventures did for me at that point was when I started going through all the multiple seminars that we went through, in the different workshops and such and the masterminds, and everything that they basically everything Cardone Ventures had was, I was like, sign me
Keep
up. I
going.
want to go. I want to go. I want to go. Just
I,
keep going.
bro, I love that you mentioned that because that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Every single event, workshop that I could learn, I'm there.
Yep.
Yeah. So go ahead.
And
Sorry.
yeah, no, it's and so what ended up happening was we started defining all of our problems. We started being able to document processes. We started the duplication process for our people, and so now we're getting down to each of our shops that we had at that point, which like how to make that shop that much better, and we went through the whole platform process, which showed us a roadmap, from $0 to $125 million in revenue. So
Mhm.
we started implementing those things that we learned in that whole process, and then what ended up happening was we just like we started getting more profitable. We had a lot more money in the bank. It was business started becoming a lot easier,
That's
because it's always like, yeah, life's hard, but life's a little less hard when you have a bunch of money in the bank, right?
true.
You still have the same problems, but it's now you have, because money is a resource, right?
Right, right.
So the more resources you have, the more money you have, you can solve problems a lot quicker. And so when we started acquiring more, putting more money in the bank, we were like, cool, we have more resources to make things happen. And so it showed our employees too, like, what we're doing is working, because now, hey, you guys need new equipment. We go buy new equipment, and
That's
there's no hesitation. And so my thing as a CEO was, my job is to make your job as easy as possible, because your
right.
job is to make the customer experience the best as possible. And so it was, I always worked for my employees. My employees worked for the customer.
I love that mindset. Did you pick that up as a CEO while you were in Card Adventures, or your mind has always been like that when you were in the military?
Um, I think there was like that in the military. Was, whatever job I was doing was, who's my customer, who's the beneficiary of what I'm doing, and so there's some maturity that comes with that too. So
Right,
I wasn't always quite mature, because we get in our own way a lot of times.
right, right,
But the older I get, the more that mindset really takes place for me, or really sets in stone in my mind. And I have to come back to that a lot. Sometimes it's,
yeah,
if I always put myself in the customer's shoes when I'm a customer too. So depending on where I'm at and what I'm doing,
right.
but being able to have that mindset and show that to your employees and show that to the people around you, it really changes their mindset too. Because, and then when your actions follow that up, then that's when business really starts happening, because your employees believe you, and your customers start believing you, like what you're
Right.
saying in your marketing, and it's like it starts circulating, and you get to the point where everything is just so smooth. When problems come up, they're handled so quickly, they never become big problems.
That's 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 very good to hear because I'm a servant leader myself. I started my recruiting agency after I retired from the Navy, and I've always, once I learned this book, the servant leadership, a
Hmm.
lot of the things that I learned from that book is more of a validation of how I was. Um, where I work, obviously the command mission, right, the Navy's mission, but I'm actually there. I work for my team,
Hmm.
vice them working for me, and then in return they work hard. They see the vision, and almost at every command I go to with that mindset and that leadership style has helped turn around that failing command. And I saw a lot of that with what they're talking about at Card Adventures as well, because I believe exactly what that particular vision is. How you are as a leader is what they do in their own businesses and what they teach others as well. So that's amazing to hear that. Um, now, at this point, you did the platform and everything else with Card Adventures. You have them in your back pocket helping you scale the business. Could you kind of talk about your revenue point at this time?
Yeah, so we were right about this point. We were like 8 million or so in revenue. And so that was like
Wow.
the year going into COVID. And so we were going through this
Oh,
whole
I see.
process.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so it was perfect because it was almost like the perfect lead up to COVID for us. And so what ended up happening in COVID was when they started shutting everything down, my mindset was, hey guys, people still need to drive their cars. They still need to go to the grocery store to get groceries. They still need to go to the doctor. They still need to, they still have lives to live, and we are here for them. And I said, if anybody's not comfortable being around it, raise your hand. I'm not going to judge. If you think your safety's in jeopardy, no problem. We'll find somebody else to do the job. But everybody was right behind us. I was out front with our people every day, showing like, hey, like we're getting ahead of this. And so, that's when a lot of things in the world started happening. So uh, we actually put together a deal that year, later on in the year, to buy so we had our 4 shops in northern Nevada, so we expanded to 8 more shops down in Las Vegas.
Wow.
And so, like, you talk about a transformational change in your organization is,
That's huge.
go grow outside your market by a factor of double, and that'll show how well your organization runs. But
Gotcha.
that was a lot of my message as we were going into that endeavor of, because Vegas is 400 miles away from Reno,
Right.
drive time. And so by being that geographically separated, if I'm going to spend a lot of my time down in Vegas now, I need all my original stores to continue to
Optimal. Yeah.
produce and still keep going up. Like we can't have anybody, slip back. And so everybody understood, everybody on our team in the northern Nevada stores was on the same. They understood that mission. And so you talk about, the military, it was, what's the mission? And
Right.
so, going through all this stuff was, we would have never been able to pull off that big of an acquisition and make it successful without having the background of the last year and a half of learning before we had made that acquisition. So by um, by having that in our pocket, we defined our mission for everybody. Everybody knew what their roles and responsibilities were. I was very intentional with how we set everything up, and so the intentions that we put out to the rest of the company were very clear, and it just helped everybody understand, like, we cannot fail up here, otherwise this whole thing fails. So it was a risky proposition, but obviously it paid out, or paid off in the end, because I'll just kind of fast forward a little bit too for the listener. But what ended up happening was we took over in the beginning of 21, and then 18 months later we sold the whole entire operation.
Wow. 18. This is
So
18 months later.
18 months after we made that acquisition, we sold everything.
Wow.
And so how it ended up happening so quickly was, we had all of our policies and procedures, we had all of our documentations in place. We had, there was basically a script for everything inside the business. So when we hired a new employee, they came in, they did an onboarding, they knew exactly what their job was, their job title, their pay bands, like how to promote through our business. So we laid out a roadmap called the employee maturity model. So you can come in day one as somebody changing oil,
Right.
and then I will show you the roadmap how to become the CEO.
Wow.
And
You apply
so,
that like in your part of your onboarding with each of
oh
the
yeah,
employees.
yep, yeah, we showed everybody that. We talked about it all the time. We promoted people. When we promoted people, we made a big deal about it. We promoted the promotion.
Right.
And so, the other thing we did employee of the month. So we went down and we recognized everybody. We made a YouTube video behind it. We blasted it out on YouTube.
That's awesome.
And so it just showed people like, hey, this is a recognition. People were very proud to get that. And then
Right.
so now you create a culture of people that want to work harder, because the
Right.
guy next to him, like, man, I did such a good job last month, and he got that. Because it was all peer
Right. Oh, I
nomination.
see. Oh, that's even
So
better.
yeah, so it wasn't me going through and going, oh, Jimmy had the most amount of hours produced, and let's give him the employee of the month. Jimmy might have a bad attitude too, so the employee of the month was based off of core values.
Right. Okay.
So we had core values in the business that we established, and we relayed those to everybody every single morning. So it was like, you know, it was that same thing. It was like the Air Force, the Air Force core values. Like
Right.
it's still integrity first, service before
Right.
self. That's all you do. It's been a long time since I've been in the Air Force, but I still remember that from basic training because they beat that into you every single day.
Right.
Like, this is how we do the mission. And so when we started doing that and we started, all these different things started happening, the acceleration of the business just took off. Because then
Wow.
when we made that acquisition that next year, we went to like almost 14 million in revenue. And then the year after, when we sold, we were going to annualize 18 million.
Wow.
And so, yeah. And then, yeah, we got approached, like I think the building the business is more important for this podcast than what the exit was. But, the exit was it was a big company, a big growing company came in and they saw our geographical footprint. So it was very strategic in that aspect too. And they said, man, we love your guys' positioning. We want to buy you. And then, so yeah, I can't really go into details on the
Wow. But yeah.
acquisition
Right.
details, but it was very beneficial for us, where we didn't have to, if I didn't want to work, probably wouldn't have to work.
Yeah.
But like Elon Musk did when he sold PayPal, he took everything and
Right.
rolled it into a couple different companies. So that's what I'm doing now.
That's
So,
awesome. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead. It is amazing, by the way. It's an amazing story. So go ahead.
so yeah, we, got the company sold middle of October of 2023, and took like the next month and a half or so to kind of shut all the accounts down, because you can imagine with 12 different locations, there's accounts everywhere, there's money floating around
Right.
everywhere. It's just trying to bring in all the pieces to make sure everything gets closed out
Is it?
appropriately.
So you sold it what, October 2022 is when you sold it, or
2023, 2023,
because
or
we're
no, 22, sorry.
yeah, yeah. I was
I,
just
I'm like, man, we're so quick, we're selling this year.
right. I mean, it's around the corner, but I was just
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I
No,
get it.
October 22, I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
no,
so
you're
yeah,
good.
18 months
Wow.
after the acquisition in 21. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, October of 2022. So that's where my next opportunity came in. Obviously, Brandon being a mentor of mine,
Right.
um, and a friend, also. I reached out to Brandon and I said, "What?" I said, "Hey, I know you got a couple things going on in Cardone Ventures," and I said, "I want to be a part of something. Like, I need to be a part of something."
Uh,
And so, we got my brother and I. We have a couple different investments in a couple different things in other avenues that we are actively working on too, and applying a lot of the same principles to grow
yeah.
those things out. But also empowering other people to grow them, so we're not as hands on. It's more of a board of advisor or
You're
board
right.
of directors type of role. And so with Brandon, we sat down and we talked because he was growing out 10x by sell.
Yeah.
And so we sat down, we talked about it. And so he brought me into Cardone Ventures as the VP for business development for 10x by sell. So it was an awesome opportunity that I was like, yes, I want to be a part of this. So that's why you see me in the Cardone Venture shirt. But
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
so being able to go out and talk about my story and how quickly it happened. I mean, you're talking, a handful of years from
Right.
taking over to exiting for, you know,
Yeah.
life changing amount of money
Big
to,
exit. Yeah.
so my goal in the next 10 years is to 10x that money.
That's
You
awesome,
know,
man. And you're still young, like, and
yeah,
to be able to do that. Were you planning on actually exiting the business, or it just the opportunity just came?
the opportunity just came, and I tell everybody, and I've always said this for a long time, is everything's for sale for the right price.
Correct. Correct.
So it's, by just having that mentality, but also setting up your business too to be able to sell at any given time.
Correct. Absolutely.
Sometimes you might not be positioned on your P&L to show the most profitability, blah, whatever the situation is, but we always had upward growth. We always had our, for the most part, our bottom line revenue was always increasing, and our operational efficiencies were always increasing. And being able to show all that stuff, adds a lot more value to the business versus just going, hey, I made $10 million last year in revenue. Well, what was the bottom line? Well, I made $100. Like, I can make $10 million no problem,
Right.
and spend $10 million. Like
Right.
that's an easy feat. It's just
Correct.
going out and finding people with enough money to support that. But to be able to grow a business profitably, and to not use outside debt to grow that business, I mean, that's a huge thing. And that's a
It
lot of
is.
the stuff that Cardone Ventures, like the things that you and I are doing with the business advisor side now. It's learning those things is huge, because it gives you that background to the education to lean into as you're going through the experience.
Yeah, I mean, your story is pretty amazing. And, I was thinking like you didn't really need to work. I mean, after you had that big exit, but obviously you still you're young, you want to continue to grow and reinvest some of those,
Yeah.
uh, like exit money that you received. And, you being the VP of the 10x buy and sell, and then being a part of the as a business advisor, I think you bring so much value into what we're doing, and that's probably why you're still actively like doing this. It's more so I think having your background of a servant leader, I think is one of the reasons why you're still here. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, pushing through and wanting to genuinely help others, be successful. I think that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and it's fun too. It's fun to help other people, like change. It's just little nuggets that we learned here and there that
Right.
really changed our perception on things and be able to affect change in us. And so by by having the opportunity to be in front of people all the time with Cardone Ventures and talk about these kind of things, and a lot of people go through a lot of different struggles every day, but
Absolutely.
it's just how we process through those struggles that is really going to, like, the attack speed of getting through that.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, you got to acknowledge that there's a struggle, and then you got to act on it, and then you attack it.
Right. That's awesome. Um, so you're doing this now. Let's talk about a little bit of like some of your hobbies, man. Like get to know you a little bit more. I do
Yeah.
know you love to fly. You're a pilot,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
how did that start? Have you always had the drive to fly since you were in the Air Force, or is it something that you just did recently?
No, so I was, when my first job active duty was, I was a KC-135 boom operator. So I was a part of a flight crew. I wasn't the pilot. I was part of the
Right.
flight crew. So,
Yep.
it was, you see the guys in there, and they put the boom in the other airplane as they're flying through the air to refuel them. That's what
Right.
my job was, to successfully make that air refueling happen,
Yeah.
um, in a safe manner. But so, it just kind of developed. It was part of the travel and that kind of stuff that I really just enjoyed, and going out and having the camaraderie of an air crew. There's, a lot of people in the military, a lot of people that are in the that have been in the military, that might be listening to this podcast. They know there's that special, like, band of brothers type of camaraderie that you have. You make friends for life, and
Right.
you can, reach out to them at any given time. They could live anywhere in the world, and it would be like you never skipped a beat. And the more you go through the business world, you kind of start finding the same things. I think it takes a little bit longer to do in the business world, because I think there's a lot of conflicts of interest for some people.
True.
But in the military, everybody's shooting for that same mission. And then I got out of active duty. I went to the National Guard, and I was a C-130 loadmaster. And then when I stopped doing that, I was just I was just sitting around one day, and I was like, man, I'm missing something. I'm missing something in my life. And it took me a while to pinpoint what it was, but I was like, I need to go fly. So then I just went all in and went and got my private pilot's license. Um, started, I think I got everything done in like 4 months, which is a pretty quick amount of time for somebody's working full time too, because I was still
Yeah.
learning the business at that point. But I just made my time was very intentional towards it. And I had a goal to get it done by a certain time. And, I got it done pretty much right at that time. And so then when we came up to the exiting of the business, I was like, well, now I got some more time on my hands. I was like, well, it's time to go get an airplane. So I went and bought an airplane.
That's so cool. That is
Yeah.
so cool, bro.
So now it's really cool too, because now I can go through and, when different business opportunities come up, it's not a big airplane. It's a pretty good general aviation airplane. It's a
Yeah.
Cirrus SR-22. So a lot of people know it's the one with the parachute built into it.
Right, right.
Uh, and it's a fairly quick airplane for general aviation. And so really anything on the West Coast, especially being kind of centrally located on the West Coast of Reno, like I'm within 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours. And so if an opportunity comes up and I need, it's like Grant, he gets an opportunity to go look at something, he's going to hop in his plane and go look at it.
Right.
And so it's the same thing for me where I get an opportunity to go look at something. I can just hop in my plane and go look at it. And you don't have to worry about what Southwest ticketing times are, delays of it, this or that. It's just, you get in, you go, you come back, you're back home the same day for dinner, and
That's so
it's no big
cool.
deal.
What's the
Yeah.
farthest you've ever flown by yourself?
When I bought the plane, I flew from New Jersey back to Reno in a day. So
Gotcha. Wow.
yeah, it was, that was a haul, but it was right kind of in the middle or beginning of winter, and there was a big storm coming in on the West Coast. So if I didn't make it back that night, I was like going to be stuck where I was, wherever I made it to for like 2 days. So I was like, all right, we're going. So,
That's
yeah,
so amazing.
yeah, it was fun. It was a fun adventure, but typically, if I take the family with me, 2 hours max is kind of because there's no bathroom on the plane. So
Gotcha.
2 hours max for, bladder control.
I
But
mean, I'm sure we could probably get another podcast talking more just on this because I'm so
yeah,
intrigued by it because I told you when we met for coffee was that was one of the things I wanted in my bucket list. Not,
yep,
currently right now, but it's something that I have to do. I want
yep,
to because I was also in aviation for the Navy side.
yep,
I was a plane captain, like one of the, entry level obligations that you have to do as a brand new airman in the Navy. So I did all of the things that most people are not going to want to do, but
yeah.
I still loved it, man. I enjoyed it, and so like I told myself, I looked up. I was only 18 years old, and I had so many amazing pilots that I worked for and I worked with, and so I think just I was only 18, 19 years old at the time, and I always looked up to them like, dang, like Top Gun type,
Yeah.
I said, one day when I am able to, like, I want to be able to, like, fly. And maybe someday, maybe buy a plane too if I
Yeah.
continue to be successful. That's pretty awesome. How many people could you fit in your on your plane? Four,
You,
five?
can fit, you can fit 4 adults or 2 adults and 3 kids.
Wow, very cool,
Yeah.
man. And
So
I
yeah, it's cool.
definitely, yeah,
It's very liberating. It's a very liberating experience when you just get up and you go and you don't, you're on your own timeline. It's
that's
truly,
so awesome, man. Well, I definitely I remember you mentioned to me one day that maybe we can do a podcast while flying or
yep.
if we're doing like a trip to like maybe Scottsdale. I'd love to like experience that. I've never been in a small plane
Oh yeah,
ever.
you'd love this. It's got the nice part is it has AC in it. So
Sorry. Did you 1 second. Sorry about that, but
no
so
worries.
much yeah, so amazing, man.
Yeah, so it's fun. It's like I said, it's one of my favorite things to do. Other than get up and talk about business and help people, like it's right there when kind of in line with those, but on different parallels, right?
Right, right.
Um, Aviation for me is very self-serving, I guess you could say, but it also helps me facilitate a lot of other great things, like getting out to see somebody.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's so amazing, and you're actually like living like I where I see myself maybe in like 10 years, just you're living it right now. But I appreciate your time. sharing your amazing story. And one last thing that I want to ask you, like, what would be your advice to, you know, aspiring entrepreneurs if they're looking into entrepreneurship and good or bad advice, just real advice that you could give them.
Um, you know, really, the something that I learned, I was at one of the masterminds, and I was talking to this guy who's, he's probably worth $1 billion, very successful, um, very kind person too. Very, you ask him a question, he gives you a very. If you ask him a very good question, you get a very good answer. And so what he said was, he goes, "Don't ever be afraid to spend money to further yourself, whether it's buy to get into a room with a bunch of people, think, a mastermind type room, to get in, to listen to people that have they've been there and done it. If you're running a $10 million business, I mean, that's great. That's phenomenal. Like, to get there by yourself, or, maybe with a family member or a business partner, to get to that point with those kind of people, it's great. But, if you ever have dreams of going from 10 million to 100 million, 100 million to a billion, you need to get around people who have done it, because they're going to help clear the weeds out of your way. And that's, or help cut down the forest that's going to be in front of you. Like, not a lot of people go through life and just, have a product. And, Elon Musk didn't do SpaceX by himself. He
Right,
put himself around with a bunch of great entrepreneurs, great engineers, and the best part is he talks about it.
correct.
He's a very good collaborator of people working towards the same mission. And so, get in those rooms, if it's or maybe it's you want to better your business. Like, there's, like, for Cardone Ventures, there's a ton of workshops that we do that will help you in one way, shape, or form. But, the first thing to do is identify where your problems are at.
Right.
And if you can't identify where your problems are at, reach out to one of us, and, let's go sit down and have a drink or coffee or whatever. And, maybe we can help point you in the right direction.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. And I know you're in social media as well. And
Yeah.
are you more active on LinkedIn? It seems like,
Yeah.
Facebook, you're on there as well, and Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where can the audience find you and follow you for more, I guess, inspiration and follow your
Yeah.
journey?
So Instagram, Aaron, AARON underscore Christensen one, and Christensen, like how it says on the thing, CHRISTENSEN.
Gotcha.
Um, LinkedIn, Aaron Christensen, you'll see me. It's, VP of business, development for 10X Buy Sell. I love LinkedIn for business stuff.
Right.
LinkedIn is such a great community to reach out to people you don't know, and
Yeah.
introduce yourself, introduce what you're all about. A lot of people will kind of give you the cold shoulder at first, but don't let that kind of stuff discourage you.
Right.
If anybody sends me a or a friend request, I
Connection.
guess we
Yeah.
call it. Yeah, I always accept them. I don't
Super.
care who you are, what it is, what your background is, where you work. Like, I accept everybody, because it just expands your network of people. And, Instagram is great for, talking business,
Right.
showing a little bit of the personal life. Like, I put stuff of me and my kids and my fiance, of all the kind of stuff we're doing all the time. And so, those are probably my two big channels. I'm on Twitter and stuff like that, but I just kind of get on Twitter to read what Elon's doing, really.
Right. Right. Are you
It's
heavily
kind of,
invested in Tesla at all, or
no, I didn't invest any money. I remember when had the automotive business, I bought a Tesla Model S, because I just wanted to see what they're all about. So it was a great car. I drove it for, you know, just over a year. I put a set of tires on it, and I sold it for what I bought it for. So
that's cool. Yeah.
yeah, it worked out great. I was like, so I drove a car for basically for free for a set of
Right.
tires
Right.
and a year of registration. So,
That's super
um,
amazing. Yeah. Um, but awesome, man. Well, I know your time is very important, Aaron, and I appreciate you hopping on here. I know a lot of people will find value with what you've shared in the 45 minutes I've had you on. So I appreciate it, Aaron, and I'm definitely looking forward to working with you alongside you and help as many entrepreneurs and business owners as we can. But yeah, I appreciate your time. I'll make sure that I share this recording with you. But man, like this is so far my favorite episode because you shared a lot of great information and it's so inspiring, my brother. I appreciate you.
You're inspiring too. So it's great. You know, likewise, it's great to talk to you too. And I know it always seems like we have a pretty good conversation when we start chit chatting. So
Yes, sir. Absolutely, man. But thanks again, man. And we'll definitely connect soon. So I guess that's it for now, everybody. Thanks for your time, for listening to us. If you sat through for 45 minutes, I hope you got some great golden nuggets, which I know you did. So please like, subscribe, and follow because I'll continue to do this and share other inspiring stories with you guys. Other than that, we're out of here. Thanks so much and have a great day.